Good morning, my dear students, and welcome to the class on civics. The previous class we had completed the chapter on High Court and Lok Adalat. I hope you are clear with those two chapters. So remember those important topics that I have taught you with regard to the Supreme Court, High Court, and the last part that we have learned, that is about the Lok Adalat. I hope you have clear with all those things. So I have sent the notes to you. Complete the notes and go through the videos to understand the topics. I hope it is clear for you. And let's move on to the last chapter of civics, that is Prime Minister. What is the role of the Prime Minister? How is Prime Minister elected? And who are the other ministers to help him? These are the things that you are going to learn in this particular chapter. The first topic, so remember, before we go to the content of the chapter, Prime Minister is the most powerful person in our country. As I said with regard to the President of India, the duty of the President is to put the signature, but the execution is done by the Prime Minister. He is the most powerful person in our country. So, let's move on to a chapter. The first point that we are going to learn is about the appointment of the Prime Minister. How is the Prime Minister appointed? So the first thing to remember is that the Prime Minister is appointed by the President. President is the one who appoints the Prime Minister of our country. But there are two different situations that will happen, that can occur. Okay? The first one, what happens when there is majority? When there is majority in the election? What happens when there is no majority? When there is no majority. Irrespective of these two situations, the Prime Minister is appointed by the President of India. But there are two situations that can happen. The normal situation, what happens when there is majority, after the elections, in the normal sense, there will be one party that gets the majority and that party will form the government at the center. So when there is a majority, what happens is that the members of the majority party will come together and they will elect a particular leader. The members of the majority, the party that got the majority, will come together and they will elect a leader who is to be appointed as the Prime Minister by the President of India. So what happens is that the members will come together and they will elect the leader. They will elect the leader to be appointed as the Prime Minister of India by the President of India. So the party will come together, the party that has got the majority will come together, they will elect their leader. It can happen before the election, sometimes before the election itself, the party will propagate this person as a Prime Minister of India. If that's the case, that person will be appointed by the President of India as the Prime Minister of India. So that's what happens in the normal sense. The members of the party will come together and they will elect a leader. That leader will be appointed by the President of India as the Prime Minister of India. Now what happens when there is no majority? Remember, there were 10 parties that stood for the election and no party got the majority. So what happens at that time? At that time, the President of India can ask a person or can appoint a person who can prove, the president must feel that this particular person can get the support of other parties and get the majority and form the government. That's what happens when no party gets the majority. Second, the president can ask the leader of any party who can get the support of other parties and can have the majority. So the president can ask him to form the government and that person will be appointed as the Prime Minister of India. So these are the two different situations that will happen. The first one, when there is a majority for one of the parties. Second, when no party gets the majority. When there is majority, the members of the majority party will come together, they will elect a leader, and then they will ask the president to appoint him as the Prime Minister of India. What happens when there is no majority? The president can ask any person who can get the support of other parties and can have the majority and can form the government, and that particular person will be appointed as the Prime Minister of India. So this is what you need to remember with regard to the appointment of a Prime Minister. Clear? I hope you have understood this particular topic. Now let's move on to a second topic, that is what do you mean by the Council of Ministers? The Council of Ministers. Council of Ministers. So where do we see that there must be something called the Council of Ministers? It is given in article number 75. Article number 75 says that Prime Minister shall be appointed by the President and other ministers to be appointed by the President on advice of Prime Minister. First, Prime Minister will be appointed by the President of India. Then other ministers also will be appointed by the President of India on the advice of Prime Minister. The Prime Minister will choose the persons whom he wants as the ministers. And so that's what we mean by the term called Council of Ministers. Which means there will be Prime Minister and the ministers appointed by the President of India on the advice of a Prime Minister. And these ministers, they must be members of a parliament. If a person wants to be a minister, that person must be a member of a parliament. And what happens if a non-member of parliament is appointed as a minister? The normal sense, ministers are members of parliament. By chance, if there is a non-member of parliament, non-member who is appointed as a minister, what will happen there? That person can be appointed as a minister, but he has to be either elected or nominated within 6 months. Okay? Within 6 months from the date of his appointment. As I said, article number 75 will say that there will be something called Council of Ministers that includes Prime Minister and other ministers appointed by the President of India. And in the normal sense, all the ministers will be members of Parliament. What happens when a non-member of Parliament is appointed as the minister? A non-member of Parliament can be appointed as the minister provided there is a condition. What is the condition? Within 6 months, that particular person has to be elected or nominated within 6 months to the parliament from the date of his appointment. If today is appointed, today is 8th January 2021. If 22. If today the non-member of parliament is appointed as the minister, what happens? Within 6 months, either the person has to be elected or nominated. Within 6 months, from January to February, 1 month is over. March, April, now 1 month is over. 2nd, 3rd, April to May, May to June. 1, 2, 3, 4. There is one from January to when it comes to February 8th, there is 1 month. The 2, 3, 4, 5, June, July. Within 6 months, that particular person has to be either elected or nominated to the parliament. So these are the two things that you need to remember today. How the Prime Minister is appointed. What do you mean by the Council of Ministers? Council of Ministers includes Prime Minister and other ministers who are appointed by the President of India on the advice of a Prime Minister. If it is clear for you, go through the video and try to understand the topic. Thank you.